So today we're starting a new series called Catapult. A new series called Catapult. And if you don't know what a catapult is, I put a visual up here for you. What a catapult was used in the ancient times during war is instead of just going hand-to-hand combat like right here, they built this contraption to put a big stone in it so it could hurl over and hit their enemy. It could fly through the air. It is actually part of the foundation for airplanes, where eventually they started to figure out how to put things into flight. But one of the reasons I'm talking about catapult is when you look at the catapult itself and how it functions, there is a restraining string at the end of the cup. So there's a cup that holds the stone. They actually call it payload. They call it payload because it's the most important thing that is being used to catapult forward. You need to see yourself as the payload. And what I want you to understand is the catapult that I believe God has built for our lives, there are times when that string has to pull down on the thing that's going to launch you. But if there is no restriction or strain to the thing pulling down, when I cut it, it's not going to go anywhere. But if I pull it tight to the point that the rope is shaking, it's bursting, it's ready to go, that soon as you cut that rope, that thing flies and launches forward. What I want to help some of you with is I believe there are times you're wondering why you're delayed. You're wondering why certain things are happening. You're trying to figure out the concept of, well, why am I'm ready. I should be over here. I should be in this next place. But what God may be doing is pulling back further on the hold so that when you're released, you go further. Oh, I came to talk about catapulting. See, I know you thought the business was ready to go, but he's like, no, let me tighten this even more. So that when I do let this thing loose, you don't go 3 feet, you go 30. You don't start with 1 client, you start with 50. But what can happen is there's frustration in the moment of holding. And what you don't, I don't know about you, but there are times in your life where you're like, what is going on? Like literally, like what is happening? But see, when you cut that rope, what was once holding you compels you forward. It excels, it launches you. I'm just wondering who's getting ready to launch. I wonder who's getting ready to go somewhere. And see, and I really want to help some of you. Then be like, have you ever felt like you've been sitting still for a minute? Like, what? Have you ever been ready to go and the person with you not ready? And you giving all the hints like, you done got your coat, your I'm ready, I'm good. And they're not picking up. Have you ever felt like Jesus isn't picking up your hints? I'm really ready. And whenever you're ready to do this thing, I'm ready to go. Oh, do not act like you love being on hold. Some of y'all mad at people right now. As soon as you hear the voice, push 1 for an operator. Please hold. If you like, you be like, nah, I want a person. How many of y'all keep pushing 0? You know you keep pushing 0. You're on there like, They can say 1,000 things. Please listen to all the prompts. Nope. See, there's something about holding that makes you think delaying is bad. But see, sometimes a delay means it's actually getting better for you. I keep telling you, if I brought in some raw chicken and start passing it out, none of you are going to eat it. But if I take the same piece of raw chicken and cook it appropriately, then you'll eat something and you actually get a nourishment out of it. Don't worry about why you're not launching. Just be prepared when the thing goes. Because, see, if you're not ready when that thing cuts and you fly in the air, how are you going to land? You missed it. You're worried about leaving, but I'm talking about your landing. You're worried about why haven't it happened to me yet? And God is like, are you ready when I do launch this thing? So you got to be prepared. You got to be ready for this. But what can happen is when your story is not going the way you thought it should go. So when my dad passed away about 8 years ago, I did not quite understand it. I wasn't mad at God, but I had questions. I did. I was like, okay, well, wait. I mean, Dad was, this. He did this. He had such a great reputation. He preached every Sunday. He didn't really drink. He didn't smoke. He didn't do any of these other. So I was like, why did this happen to him? So I was wondering about the problem. And I wanted an answer to why. But over time, I started to realize my job is not to understand some things until I get to heaven. But what he shifted me to think about is, but Chris, right now, you need to focus on you're the payload. And I am pulling back something. This has not to do with your father. This has to do with your purpose. So what I had to start doing was positioning myself to say, when he cuts this thing loose, will I be ready? My question to you is, I know you have questions. Why is it taking so long? Why is it so slow? Why did this happen? When does it turn to change? But what you have to do is trust God in the process. There's a scripture in the Bible in Ecclesiastes that says, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. And if you read this, this says there's a time for things to launch, there's a time for things to die, it's time to plant, it's time to pull up. It just talks through all these things you can do. What I need you to understand is there's seasons. So sometimes what you don't want to do is make sure you're in the season that God is in. If I came in right now with my full-length mink, besides y'all put me on Instagram, you'd be like, it's too hot for him to be in this mink now. You know when you see somebody, you like, it's too hot to be wearing full leather. You can't wear all leather in the summer. You can't. You see somebody with no shirt on with the leather, you're like, it's still hot. Still hot. Because it's not the right season. But maybe you're in a season of restraint. Maybe you're in a season of, okay, no. Because, see, you don't want him to cut it yet because you're not going to go that far. So maybe he's pulling it so tight. So when this thing launches, you're just like, whoosh. But here's the other thing. Galatians 6:9 says this, but let us not become weary in doing good. For at the proper time, you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. Do not get out the cup of the catapult. Well, that's enough. I've been waiting. That's enough. And then did you see something cut and go, oh, wait, no, Jesus, wait. Now, listen, this is for people that you know on the other side of your life. I don't go to the casino and gamble. But I understand this, that sometimes people go. I was talking to a guy this week at the gym, and he would say at the gym. Okay, but anyway, I was talking to this guy at the gym, and he was telling a story about his brother, and he was like, I don't want to go to the casino. And his other brother said, I don't want to go to the casino. But the other brother was like, can we just go for a little bit? So they go in, and he said, I'll give you $20. Just do something. So he said, okay, he said, Chris, we lost our $20 in 5 minutes. This is why I do not gamble. But he lost his money. But his brother had one coin left, and he goes, I just believe this machine is going to give. It's getting ready to pop. That's interesting to me. You can have faith for other stuff. Anyway, but he put it in, and then all of a sudden it went, and all this change started flying. What's that thing called? I want you out right now. That's like a couple Sundays back. I was like, what's that liquor called? Somebody's Hennessy. I was like, get that one. Somebody talking about, can I do my communion my way, Pastor? No. But my point is, he said, if I don't give up, if I leave this chair right now, it's going to pop. What I'm wondering for you is if you're getting weary and you're getting upset and you're getting worked up, but it's not that God's not going to bring the blessing. The blessing is there. The question is, are you going to wait long enough? Are you going to stay long enough? Are you going to hold off long enough? When people are saying give up, you got to go, no, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm in this thing. God is going to launch me. I'm holding on tight. So I want to help you understand this. There's a story that I'm going to walk you through about Ruth and Naomi. Ruth is the daughter-in-law. Naomi is the mother-in-law. So watch what happens. There was a great famine. I'm skipping parts of this because we don't have time to read all. I'm just going to give you the front end of the story. But there was a great famine in Israel during the time of Judges. And what happened is many people started relocating because where they were, there was no more food. So people started trying to go to different cities and find food and change their lives. And there was a man from Bethlehem, Elimelech, and his wife, Naomi, and his 2 sons. And so this family of 4, they move to another location. After they get down there, the husband dies. So Naomi is now hurt and bitter because her husband passed away. But then in a little bit more time, both of her sons married women from that era. They didn't go back home. They didn't marry people of their kind. They married people in the new city where they were living. Then a short time after that, both sons die. So Naomi loses both of her sons and her husband in a short amount of time. She then has a conversation with her 2 daughter-in-laws and basically says, I can't birth more sons, so you should just leave and go back to your own homes. So one of the daughters, one was Moab, was the city they were living in. But one of the daughters, it looks like it's Oprah, but it's Orpah. Orpah was like, well, hey, you said go, I'm going to leave. So she just leaves and starts to go home. But Ruth said to Naomi, I'm going to stick with you. I know my husband is gone. I know he's passed away. I know your son is gone. But I'm staying connected with you. Some of y'all can't get along with folks you do like. But she was like, I'm just going to give up everything I have, and I'm going to stay connected to you, Naomi. But interestingly enough, Naomi is now bitter. Naomi is upset, but Ruth has this heart full of God. Let's pick it up what it says. And so now Ruth and Naomi, and so the two of them traveled on together to Bethlehem, because now Naomi's going back to the place where she was from. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was buzzing. Is this really our Naomi? And after all this time, so all her friends saw her coming, they were like, Naomi, oh my gosh. And then it says, as she was looking at that, it says, but she said, don't call me Naomi, call me bitter. That's a family reunion right there. Don't call me that, call me bitter. She says, call me bitter. The strong one has dealt me a bitter blow. She's talking about God. Isn't it interesting when you go through things, now your relationship has a different situation, and now you don't love him. You love him when he was giving everything to you, but when you don't understand everything, you don't love him. See, that's why you have to have a relationship. Right? Pastor Jori and I will be married 23 years next month. In all that time, I'm 99.9% perfect. I am not looking at her. 99.9. But for that 1% when I'm not perfect, if there was nothing in this relationship, when we were upset at each other or having a situation or there's something going on in our lives that's not good, but since there's a foundation, even when hard times come, we keep loving each other. See, when you don't have an understanding of God, but you have an idea of him, when things get tough, then you check out. But when you know who he is, you can praise him. And people are like, how are you praising him when it seems crazy? But that's because of the relationship. But Naomi's upset now, and she's telling her friends, don't call me Naomi, call me the bitter one. And she said, I left here full of life. I had a husband and 2 sons, and God has brought me back with nothing but the clothes on my back. Why should you call me Naomi? God certainly doesn't. The strong one ruined me. That's some tough talk about God. And so Naomi went back, and Ruth the foreigner was with her, and back from the country of Moab, they arrived in Bethlehem in the beginning of the barley harvest. It has so happened that Naomi and a relative by marriage, a man prominent and rich, connected with Elimelech's family, his name was Boaz. So basically, there's like a family member kind of mixed in the family, and his name is Boaz. So Ruth and Naomi are now back in Bethlehem, and Naomi's upset, bitter, sad, letting everybody know how bad her life is. But then one day, Ruth, the Moabite foreigner, said to Naomi, I'm going to go to work. I mean, we both can't just sit in the house. You know, you need to be with somebody who's going to say, let's do something. Don't get around friends where you want another box of puffs, I'll get them. No, somebody got to say, well, we got to do something. So she says, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to go to glean. Glean means to go pick among the sheaves, following after some harvesters who will treat me kindly. Naomi said, well, go ahead, dear daughter. Do what you can. See if you can do anything. And so she set out. And she went and started gleaning in a field, following the wake of the harvesters. So harvesters are pulling up stuff, right? They're harvesting the fruit or the wheat, but stuff falls. So she was following behind them and just picking up the crumbs, picking up the bad fruit, and just picking up what was left over. So she's doing this, and eventually she ended up in the part of the field owned by Boaz, her father-in-law, Elimelech's relative. And a little later, Boaz came out. So she's out here doing this. Now, Boaz comes riding in on his horse. I don't know why, but I think Boaz had a little Billy D, Denzel. Like, I think he was riding like, what up? Y'all good? I don't know why, just because when you hear the story, you're going to be like, okay, Boaz. But it said a little later, Boaz came out from Bethlehem, greeting his harvesters. And he said, God be with you. And they replied, and God bless you. So Boaz asked his young servant, who was the foreman over the farm hands? Who is this young woman? Where did she come from? I need you to understand something. She was good looking. It's okay. I don't know if she had a weave. I don't know if she had lashes, but she was cute. Because you come to a field of a bunch of people, and you're like, hey, who that one? Who over here? Pastor Jori always say ABCs, always be cute. You better go to Cub, you better go to Cub Cute. You never know. Boaz might be in the fruit section. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to just help. Brothers, let me help you flirt. This is how you flirt. You look amazing. I'm sorry to bother you. Could you help me pick out an avocado here? I don't know. Ladies, let me show you how to do it. You look like you cook. Do you cook? You so muscular. I know you work out. I just had a quick question. You know he going to be like, yes, I do. I do cook. I'm trying to get y'all. So anyway. Boaz comes to the field. He's talking to his foreman, and he's like, okay, I know everybody else, but who's that out there? It's amazing how somebody can find you when they can't find somebody else. He said, now who is she, and then where does she come from? So the foreman said back to Boaz, who was the owner of all this land, why, that's the Moabite girl, the one who came with Naomi from the country of Moab. And she asked permission. Let me glean, she said, and gather among the sheaves following after your harvesters. Can I just pick up the crumbs that are left? And she's been at it steady. He's like, she's been here all day, just picking up crumbs. I wonder one time or 2 times or 3 times or 4 times, how many times is it going to take for you to humble yourself to get your blessing? I don't pick up crumbs. That's just not what I do. I don't really like kids, or else I would do kid life. I would. You better be a kid life diaper getting. You don't know where your blessing is. You don't know when God is trying to catapult you. So she's out there picking up the crumbs. And he said, man, she's been at this all day. She's been at it steady ever since, from early morning until now, without so much as a break. I wonder sometimes you're not getting your blessing because you're busy trying to break. Maybe you would get promoted if you actually stayed at the desk. Come on, Jesus. If you came to work on time, my God, my God, my God, my God. Not as much as a break, she's just working. See, when you're in a desperate situation, she's like, just give me these crumbs. I got to feed me. I got to feed Naomi. So then Boaz saw it and said, then Boaz spoke to Ruth. Listen, my daughter, from now on, don't go to any other field to glean. Stay right here in this one and stay close to my young woman. And then he says, and watch where they are harvesting and follow them. And don't worry about a thing. I've given orders. See, I think you need to understand, even in your waiting, even while you're getting crumbs, even while people don't think you're good enough or great enough, and maybe you're thinking you're less than, God will still protect you. Boaz said, I've already given orders. I've given orders to my servants not to harass you. See, this is what I'm telling you. I think she was a pretty girl in a tough situation. He was like, no, ain't nobody gonna mess with you. Don't you worry. So when you get thirsty, he says, feel free to go and drink from the water buckets that the servants have filled. Don't get your own water. I already told them to get you some. I'm telling you what's coming. I'm telling you what's coming. I'm telling you a catapult. I think she's already getting in the cup. I think she's sitting down and she's waiting, and that tension's getting tighter. While she's picking stuff off the ground, God is pulling this thing tighter. He's getting ready to launch her life. He's getting ready to do something amazing that she can't understand. He says, don't worry, just drink from them. They'll get you some water. And then she dropped to her knees and bowed her face low to the ground. And she said, how does this happen that you should pick me out and treat me so kindly? I'm a foreigner. I'm going to help some of you. See, some of you are so busy trying to get people in the room that look your color, have the same kind of hair texture you have. But God can put you in a situation where nobody looks like you, likes you, smells like you, tastes like you, and still get you promoted. Stop putting God in a bucket. Stop saying you look, well, I only want it this way. Listen, when I was in the corporate America, I remember one time I was up for this promotion, and this guy was telling me, he's like, Chris, I don't know if you're going to get it. I said, why not? And he was like, he gave me this face. The face was telling me a lot. He was like, shh. I was the only person of color that was up for the role. I didn't have as much time in the office as anybody else. And so he was like, I don't think you're going to get it. And then he said, plus, you don't belong in the right zip code. Because everybody else had already been, they all go to the same country club. I was like, country who? Country club here was a store. I grew up in Minneapolis where there was a store called Country Club. I was like, I go to Country Club? Oh, you mean Country Club. He was like, you're probably not going to get it. But then somebody said to him, the one thing about Chris Thibodeaux, he said, he's green to me. So this guy said, what, you think he's too new? He said, no. The thing about Chris Thibodeaux is any team I put him on, he makes us money. He said, so I really don't care what color he is. Oh, see, I'm trying to help some of you because we get stuck in these barrels and in these lanes, and you let people tell you what God can do. But I started saying, let them see what I can do, not who I am, not the color that I am. Let my work speak for me. She says, how did you pick me out? I'm a foreigner. I'm not even from these parts. I mean, how do you do this? And then he said, Boaz answered her. He said, I've heard all about you. People know about you. He said, I've heard all about you. I heard about the way you treated your mother-in-law. What is your reputation? How are you treating people? How are you dealing with folks? If I followed you for a week, how many people did you cut off, cuss out, tell them don't ever come back? Oh, how many times did you do that in a week? Not at this church. It's the other church I pastor. He said, I've heard all about you. I've heard about the way you treated your mother-in-law and after the death of her husband and how you left your father and you left your mother and the land of your birth and have come to live among a bunch of total strangers. What if your launch is going to require something that makes no sense? Well, at least let me go back home to my people. Let me go back to my, no. You're going to go somewhere strange where it doesn't make any sense. But then he said to her, while he's talking, now she's still on the ground. Why did you pick me? And he says, God rewarded you well for what you've done. I'm telling you, God sees the work. He sees the effort. He sees the tough times. And it says God will reward you for what you've done and with a generous bonus besides from God to whom you've come seeking protection under his wings. And she said, oh, sir, such grace, such kindness. I don't deserve it. You've touched my heart and treated me like one of your own, and I don't even belong here. See, now, I need you to understand right now she's still sitting in a cup in a catapult and is not necessarily launched. But I often tell people, you're looking for the end of the miracle, but you're missing the signs that one is coming. Well, she's supposed to be first of all, he could have said, get out of the field. Don't come to my field. Who are you coming on my field? He could have said, oh, no, I don't care, Bob. You can pick it. Whatever happens to you is on you. But God protected her in the process. So it says, he says, and I don't even belong here. You're really treating me like this. But at the lunch break, Boaz said to her, come over here and eat some bread and dip it in the wine. So she joined the harvesters, and Boaz passed the roasted grain to her, and she ate her fill and had some leftovers. And when she got up to go back to work, Boaz ordered the servants, let her glean where there's still plenty. See, she started off getting crumbs, but after lunch, he said, no, give her plenty. And then he said, let her get the plenty of the grain on the ground and make it easy for her. I'm trying to tell you what I believe can happen in your season. Things can start getting easy. People can start treating you better. What you were working hard for in the morning could change in the afternoon. I'm coming to give you hope. I'm coming to give you joy. I'm coming to give you something to thank God about, that you're not going to be in struggle always. This too shall pass. So now it's afternoon, and she's like, okay, well, I was bending low, but now I can stand up. They throwing extra stuff my way. So time passes on, 3 more chapters in the Bible, and if you get to chapter 4, it says, Boaz married Ruth. You better. Somebody gonna go to the field tonight. I'm ready to pick. Boaz married Ruth. During this time, he gets to know her. He starts doing more for her. She then lets herself be known that she's open to marriage because he was like, I don't know, because, your husband died. She had to let herself be known to be seen so he could even know if there was a chance. So then it says, Boaz married Ruth, and she became his wife. And Boaz slept with her, his wife. He slept with his wife. Okay, anyway, but God's gracious gift, she conceived and had a son. Now, you got to remember, this is a woman whose husband died, whose father-in-law died, who left everything that she had before. But now, all of a sudden, she's in this situation, and she's conceived and had a son. And after she has the son, it says, then Naomi took the child in her arms after the baby was born. See, now the mother-in-law who thought God forgot about her, the one who said, I'll never have anything, don't call. Now, notice her name is Naomi again. It's not bitter now. See, she was giving up on God in chapter 1, but God added 3 and a chapter 4 and a chapter 5. What you got to do is give God time. Don't grow weary in doing good, but at the proper time, you got to reap a harvest so you don't give up. And so the woman living there said Naomi has a son, and they named him Obed. And he was the father of Jesse, who was the father of David. Now, if you don't understand what I mean by that, here, let me help you understand. So Ruth and Boaz had a baby named Obed. Obed eventually had a son named Jesse. Jesse eventually had a son named David. And David actually has sons named Joshua, Joseph, who winds up giving us Jesus. This woman who is now thought of herself as less than and was in a field picking, I'm telling you what happened. I believe the rope was cut, and before you know it, she was in the air flying over to her next thing. Oh, I wish somebody... David, come on up here. Come set this up. Here's the other thing I need you to see. We started off, Naomi is the one from Bethlehem. Naomi is the one who's connected. But look at this screen right here. But the book in the Bible is not named after Ruth. It's named after Ruth. It's not named after Naomi. That means the woman who was not the one who was supposed to be the right one. The one who was the part 2 of the story. The story really was about Naomi, but Naomi wouldn't stay in her place and see what God wanted to do. What I need you to understand is in this catapult season, you've got to prepare for something. So I know y'all are looking like, well, what's David doing? I'm going to show you what David's doing. So this is my sample catapult for you. So what I'm trying to give you is a visual. Because what I had made a decision to do when I was putting this sermon together was this. I'm about to go get in my catapult. So when people don't understand what I'm doing, and people say, well, why are you doing that? Well, why are you preaching to empty chairs? Because God had a building already. I'm already in the next building. I'm already in the next situation. I'm already in my next place. I'm already somewhere else. But my job right now is to get in my catapult. So what I need you to understand is this. This is what I'm doing. I'm living my life doing it like this. Where you going, Pastor? I'm about to catapult. See, I'm in position because I'm waiting. I'm like, okay, God, I'm ready, God. Whenever you get ready. And see, the string is holding me back. It's restraining me. I get frustrated, and I'm like, I want to get out. And he's like, hold on. Just stay in there. Because at some moment, in some situation, I'm going to cut this rope, and I'm going to be ready to fly in the air. See, I'm not where I used to be. See, you're looking at me right here, and you're like, well, I don't see anything. But I got a better understanding that in this season of waiting, in this season of delay, in this season where it doesn't seem like anything's happening, I got 2 choices. I can sit here and worry. I can sit here and cry. Nah, baby, I got myself in a position. I put my helmet on because I'm ready to fly. Now, let me tell you something else. Then God said, Chris, but are you really ready? I said, what do you want me to do, God? He said, look it. When I pull the string hard enough, it may cause you to get in a very uncomfortable situation. See, waiting is one thing in a comfortable situation. But what if my cup that is holding me up, and he's like, I know you're ready to go. I just got about 3 more tugs. And what I saw God doing with me is this. The pulling is so strong, I'm all the way to the ground. There is a tension that is so tight on this cord that I literally feel like I'm shaking. And I feel like any moment when he cuts this thing, I'm going to go flying. But what I want to do in the natural is this. This is uncomfortable. Let me out of the cup. Somebody come get me. And he's like, Chris, hold on. Just hang in there long enough. If you can just wait on me, I'm telling you, I'm getting ready to do something. Don't get out now. Hang on. I know you're picking up crumbs. I know people are laughing at you. I know people are making fun of you. But hold on. Stay in there, Naomi. Stay in there, Ruth. Come on, Ruth. Don't give up yet, Ruth. I got a man who's going to change your life. But am I too uncomfortable? Well, I don't know. I don't like doing this. I would just, God, can't you do something while I was up here? But see, if he cuts me up there, I'm only going to go so far. But if I just lean into this now, stop fighting the pull, embrace myself for what's getting ready to come. See, I put the pot on my head because I feel like the wind is going to go so fast. I need to protect my head because this is going to happen so fast. Amos 9:13 says this, things are getting ready to happen so fast, your head is going to swim. One blessing on the heels of the other. Everywhere you look, Chris, there's getting ready to be blessings. The question is, can I do the uncomfortable? But when this thing launches, and when I get up out of this thing, see, my question is, How high am I getting ready to fly? I'm asking every one of you who are uncomfortable. Wait a minute, Pastor, but this is going on. I think he's pulling back your rope further. Well, why isn't this happening yet? Just sit in the seat. So when he cuts your cord, you can catapult. The last thing I want you to realize about catapulting, it helps you fly over stuff. He was saying to me, would you rather go through it or go over it? I said, over it. He said, well, I got to pull you further back then. I got to pull you further back because you can walk through this. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but why not fly over the death shadow? Make a decision during this series that you're going to catapult. Did you get something out of the word this morning? Come on, give God some praise.